How you doing? Charlie Martini here. I've been seeing some things on TV and, just talking to people in general. Been finding out a lot of people are confused, like, what is your purpose of life? I mean, it's a pretty big question, right? So we do have several purposes of life. The very first purpose is to find God. Now, you may find God through the Bible, you may find God through whatever religion you are, but I mean really find God, really understand Him so your life reflects that part that you found of God. And so how do you do this? I mean, if you're an atheist or an agnostic, you actually have a better chance than a lot of people who think they already believe in God, because you are already disbelieving God or you're questioning. So maybe you gave up on God, which, then you're never going to find Him. Or maybe you're trying to find Him. So let me give you my story just to tell you how I came to find God and know that I found Him. My story begins in first grade, when I guess I was about 5 or 6 years old. Now, my mother was a Catholic, strict Catholic. My dad was a Protestant, and he switched from Protestant to Catholicism so they could get married. So I was raised to believe in God, before school even, right? So I had that belief in God anyway. Well, I go to my first, second, and third grades, I went to Catholic school. And in first grade, very first couple days, then the nun would read the Bible to us. They'd take about an hour a day. I think it was after lunch. They would sit and they would read, the Bible for about an hour, half hour, whatever. And so, I'm a first grader and I love the stories, But the very first day, we have Adam and Eve. They're in the Garden of Eden. They have their two sons, Cain and Abel. And this happens very quick in the Bible. I think it's like in the first page, where Cain and Abel are working in the fields and Cain kills Abel. Now, this is a little shock to a first grader to find this out. But what happened next was what really blew my mind as a first grader. What does the Bible say happened to Cain after he killed Abel? Well, the Bible said he got kicked out of the garden, went east of Eden, over the mountain, where he dwelt with the people in the land of Nod, and he took a wife. Well, I'm a little first grader, and I raised my hand. Something's wrong here. I said, wait a minute. If Adam and Eve are the first people on earth, Cain and Abel are their first kids, and Cain gets kicked out of the garden and goes to this land of Nod, where did the people in this land of Nod come from? Well, of course, the nun, she couldn't answer. She said, I'll ask the priest. And one day I cornered the priest. He said, you know what, I'll ask the bishop. And basically, I guess I got the runaround, and I never found out. But at that point, I did have two choices. I mean, I could have not believed in God and said, hey, this is bullshit. But I didn't do that. I still believed in God, but I did realize there must be another truth out there, because if I'm a first grader and I can find a hole in the Bible, something's wrong. And to me, God is perfect. His word should be perfect. There should be nothing wrong. So at 5 or 6 years old, that became my quest. I figured if I could find out where these people in the land of Nod come from, that I would understand God and His word a lot more. So I actually did that. It was always with me, trying to find that. When I went to college, I took theology courses. I tried to find out. And then basically with theology, I found out most religions, they basically all say the same thing, but they use a different main character. I found holes in most of the religions, all of them, but I won't go into that. But my own religion, Christianity, they taught a God of fear. And to me, God was not a fear. God gets mad at you, so he makes a flood. I didn't think that was kind of God. The Muslims with holy war. I didn't think God wants war. I always thought God was love and peace, And even with my own religion, with Christianity, they had the Crusades. I didn't believe in this stuff. So basically, I still went through college and was still confused because nobody could tell me where these people in the land of Nod came from. So lo and behold, I'm in my traveling years. 21, 23. 21, I visited South America, and when I was Colombia, I actually lived in. And 23, I had the a strange opportunity. I never thought I'd be there again. At 23, I had the opportunity to go back there. So when I went back, I met this guy, and he had this book. And what he told me was, because we started talking about religion and all that, and what he told me was his grandmother was the head librarian in the Hartford Library in Connecticut, and for 25 years she read every book in the Hartford Library she could at religion, because she was like me. She wanted to find God. Well, he shows me this big thick book, and he says, she told me this is it. She said, I found it. He goes to me, this is way too deep for me. So basically what we got in, we traded books, and I wound up getting that book. I still have it today. And what surprised me, this book told me where those people in the land of Nod came from. They not only told me where they came from, they told me who Nod himself was. So I knew I had the truth. And I tell you what, I've read that book 6 times trying to find out the any falsehoods in it. I can't do it. I can't find any holes. So to me, that is the perfect Word of God. Now, I can't say the name of it on this video because the foundation who is entrusted to the dissemination of that book does not want it out there over media or anything like that, but they do say they want it word of mouth to word of mouth, how Jesus taught. So I will tell you, if you were that interested, if you want to know the name of the book, you can write to me at Caderey, that's CADEREY at Comcast.net, and I'll be glad to tell you the name of the book. I mean, you don't even have to buy the book. I think the book is $30 or $40 today, but it's all online. It's all free. You could actually read it online for free. So that is your main purpose, is to find God, and I believe I actually achieved that. We have several other purposes here. One of them, all of us, most of us do anyway, is to have children. It's very important. It's a very important purpose while we're here, to raise children. And why? Because God is the Father of us all. Being perfect, He is the perfect parent. And the only way to understand a parent's love for his children, or their children, is to have your own children and to experience what God experienced. So that's a purpose that just about anybody here can on earth can do. It doesn't have to be your child, biological child. As long as you've raised them from a young age up to, adulthood, you've got that experience because you still love that child as it is yours. So that's a purpose all of us can do. God Himself only gave us one purpose. And His one commandment was, be you perfect, even as I am perfect. That came all the way from paradise. And we all know we can't be as perfect as God. But what He meant was, you be perfect on your world as I am perfect on paradise and all worlds. So this is something we can achieve. We can be the perfect child. We can be the perfect student. We can be the perfect parent. We can be the perfect employee. We could be the perfect boss. There's many ways. You could be the perfect neighbor, the perfect friend. So we can achieve that, being the best you can be. Now, my example, another thing, when I went back to college, I wanted to learn. I wanted to not be a fuck-up like I was the first year I went. So I decided to buckle down. And yes, I got straight A's in everything I took. I actually understood calculus, differential equations, chemistry, physics, all of it. Straight A's. So in my mind, I was the perfect student. So we can be perfect. Jesus only gave us, really, He only wanted to tell us 2 things, because you have to realize the times that Jesus lived. Back then, kings, emperors, maybe the holiest of men, were allowed to go to heaven. Heaven was not open to the normal person. You had to be somebody very important. Look like with the pharaohs, they were buried in the tombs, like the pyramids with all their riches, so that when they go to heaven, they'll have everything. So Jesus opened the door to everybody. He says, no, heaven's open to everybody, which was almost a little bit of blasphemy at that time. And like I said, if you don't believe in something with your religion that you're being taught, it's not blasphemous to question your religion like I did. That's not blasphemy. That's actually trying to find God. So Jesus really wanted us to know that heaven's open to anybody, and he only had two things to tell us, really. God is the Father of us all, and being God's children, we are all brothers and sisters. So he wanted us to know we're all so close to each other that we all have to get along. And that is another thing, another purpose here on life, is to learn how to get along, because just think what's going to happen when you get up into heaven. You're not only going to have to deal with people from Earth, you're going to have to deal with people from all other planets. And I know maybe some people don't believe that there's life on other worlds, but I'm betting a lot of people do. And just think, you're going to have to deal with all these different life beings. So that's another purpose here, is to get along. Now, with God's commandment, be you perfect. Well, how are we going to do that, God? He actually gave us a blueprint in the form of the 10 Commandments. And another thing I want to tell you about is when I first began traveling, 18, 19 years old, I had the long hair, and we were down in North Carolina. We were on Route 95, but back then 95 was not complete, so you had to get off on some of these backcountry roads. Well, we're going through Fayetteville, North Carolina, and we're hungry, so we stop at this diner. I still remember Johnny's Diner, and Johnny himself had, you know, the crew cut, the redneck, but he was a cool guy. He actually sat down, all four of us with long hair. He started talking, and we got on the topic of religion. And one thing Johnny said, it was pretty profound to me, because this is before I found the truth, but Johnny said, just imagine what a wonderful world we would live in if everybody followed the 10 Commandments. That's simple. I said, yeah, you know what? It would be a wonderful world if nobody killed, nobody stole, nobody lied or whatever. So that started me thinking, well, in my traveling years, like I said, 23, I wound up in South America, and I found the truth. So we do have the blueprints for being perfect by following the 10 Commandments. And one final thing that Jesus said, and we all know, is love thy neighbor like you love yourself. That's another blueprint to how to be the perfect person, another purpose in life. He went a step farther with his apostles, and I'll share that with you here, so maybe you can do it too. He told the apostles, love your neighbors as I love all of you, which actually means his love is even greater, of course, than our love could be. So if you can even take your love for your neighbor a step beyond, and I don't mean adultery, but you know the direction I'm going. If you could take it a step beyond, then you're on, you know, another trail, another purpose of life. So I wanted to say this real fast. I know I probably missed some things, but I wanted to just get that we don't have, you know, life isn't really that complicated. We don't have that many purposes. Our ultimate purpose, God did give us the Spirit of God inside of us, and our one ultimate purpose, which is almost impossible to have here, because in 70, 80, 90 short years, it's very hard for us to do this, because our ultimate purpose is to fuse with the Spirit of God. That is just like becoming one with God. But when you fuse with the Spirit of God, it consumes your body. They say that if you were ever to witness somebody fusing with their spirit, you'd be just watching them go up in flames. Now, this brings to mind the spontaneous combustion. I started thinking, you know, maybe these are people who actually fuse with their child, because we have what we call 7 psychic circles. You start off when you're young in the 7th circle, when you progress your way up. The most important one is when you get to the 3rd psychic circle, because then you get your own guardian angel, and you are basically assured life after death once you get there. And most of us achieve that without even realizing it. The next one is once you get to the first psychic circle, you are actually able to hear the Spirit of God's voice. And when you hear the Spirit of God, it is actually like hearing God's voice. So once you get to that point, and it's very hard, because you have to really still your mind to get to that point. And our minds are so electrochemical, and we have so much going through them just by daily routine of life. I mean, did you ever lay down at night and try to still your mind? It might work for a couple seconds, but then your mind is wandering and you're starting to think it. So it's very hard for that spirit to get through to us. But once you get to the first psychic circle, your spirit does get through to you and can communicate with you. But even that does not guarantee that you're going to fuse with your spirit. Like I said, it takes a long, long time to fuse with your spirit. But that is our ultimate. If you fuse with your spirit on Earth, you've done the ultimate. I know I'm far away from that. I know I'm about the third psychic circle, maybe the second, because I can't even hear the spirit's voice. But I wanted to say this real fast. I hope I did it under 20 minutes because my camera kind of shuts off and does crazy things at 20 minutes, so that's why I'm talking as fast as I can. It's Sunday here in New Jersey. It's a nice day outside, so I'm going to go enjoy the day. I hope I said everything, hope made clear enough. But this is Charlie Martini signing off. Have a great day. Cheers.